In this video, I'll show you January 24th, 2023, Officer Blake Stinson of the Cody Police Department in Cody, Wyoming, pulled over a 17-year-old driver whose name has not been publicly released for allegedly failing to yield to a pedestrian in a crosswalk. The driver was on his way to school with two other minors, and after he stopped, Officer Stinson approached the driver's side of the vehicle. The incident that followed was captured on Officer Stinson's body camera and dash camera, as well as the body cameras of other officers.
When someone's in the crosswalk, you're required to yield to them. I need your driver's license, registration, and insurance.
Yes, sir. Can I call my mom? This is her vehicle.
Yeah, you can provide digital copy of the insurance, but the registration needs to be provided.
Can I ask what I was pulled over for?
There was somebody in the crosswalk and you almost hit him.
It's officers. He said there was somebody in the crosswalk and almost hit him. You want me to talk to him?
I need your driver. I don't care. I need your driver's license.
He said he doesn't care. He doesn't want to talk to you. I'm not inclined to talk to you without a parent. I'm not 18 years old.
You're driving a vehicle and you're required to give me your driver's license, your registration, and your insurance. Okay? Those three things are required. If you don't provide those things, you'll be placed in custody. Okay? I'm not joking.
You said if I don't provide those things, I'll be placed in custody. I don't know where anything is. Sir, my mom's on the way to help me out.
Okay, go ahead and step out of the vehicle. Step out of the vehicle.
Sir.
I can smell marijuana in the vehicle. Get out.
There's no marijuana.
I'm not going to tell you again. You're going to get out of the vehicle or I'm going to drag you out. Open the door. Open the door now.
My mom's on the way.
I don't care. Open the door now.
My mom down here?
Nope.
You gotta step out.
I'm not 18 years old.
It doesn't matter. I saw a violation. I stopped you for it, and you've already talked back to me about getting your stuff out. Get out of the vehicle.
I'm trying to figure out what's going on.
Get out of the vehicle. That's what's going on.
I know I'm allowed to have a parent.
I'm going to drag you out. You decide. Can I talk to him? No. After the driver fails to produce his driver's license, registration, and proof of insurance, Officer Stinson orders him to step out of the vehicle, and the driver claims that he's allowed to have a parent or lawyer present because he is a minor. According to Section 31-7-116 of the Wyoming statutes, quote, "Every licensee shall have his driver's license in his immediate possession at all times when driving a motor vehicle and shall display the license upon demand of any police officer." Additionally, Section 31-2-204 provides that, quote, "A copy of the certificate of registration shall be carried at all times in the motor vehicle for which it is valid and shall be displayed upon demand of any peace officer." And Section 31-4-103 requires all drivers to provide proof of liability insurance to an officer who is issuing a citation for a moving violation. It is important to note that the language in these statutes is not limited to adults and applies to all drivers in Wyoming, so the driver would be required to provide these documents to Officer Stinson as part of the traffic stop, despite his age. Furthermore, in the 1977 case of Brewer v. Williams, the Supreme Court held that an individual gains the right to an attorney, quote, "at or after the time the judicial proceedings have been initiated against him, whether by formal charge, preliminary hearing, indictment, information, or arraignment," meaning that the right to counsel does not exist at the onset of a traffic stop because minors are not afforded any special legal protections during traffic stops. The driver was not entitled to have a parent or attorney involved in the traffic stop simply because he is a minor. However, it is important to note that a juvenile's age may be taken into consideration during other types of police interactions. For instance, although the U.S. Constitution does not prohibit officers from interrogating juveniles without a parent or lawyer present in all situations, in the 2011 case of J.D.B. v. North Carolina, the Supreme Court held that courts must consider a juvenile's age as a relevant factor when determining whether a suspect is, quote, UN, quote, in custody and therefore entitled to be read their Miranda rights before being subjected to police interrogation. In reaching this conclusion, the court recognized that, quote, children generally are less mature and responsible than adults, that now quoting again, they often lack the experience, perspective, and judgment to recognize and avoid choices that could be detrimental to them. That now quoting again, they are more vulnerable or susceptible to outside pressures. And that now quoting again, a reasonable child subjected to police questioning will sometimes feel pressured to submit, when a reasonable adult would feel free to go. Therefore, although a juvenile does not receive extra legal protections during a standard traffic stop, their age may be relevant to other considerations that may arise during police interactions.
Get out of the vehicle.
He's dragging me out of the car.
Get out of the vehicle.
Mom!
Get out of the vehicle.
Mom! Help me!
You get that one. Get out of the vehicle now.
Mom! Mom, help
You're
me!
told very clearly what to do, and if you're not going to do it, we're going to have to take other avenues. Unlock the door.
I can't, sir, you have my arm.
Okay, then get your knee off of it, because I know what you're doing.
Button, please.
There's not one on that side.
Get your knee off of it, because I know what you're doing. Okay? You're going to go for resistance.
While attempting to remove the driver from the vehicle, Officer Stinson threatens to arrest him for resisting, claiming that his age is irrelevant. According to Section 6-5-204 of the Wyoming statutes, an individual commits the offense of interference with a peace officer if they knowingly obstruct, impede, or interfere with a peace officer engaged in the lawful performance of their official duties. As the Supreme Court of Wyoming explained in the 2020 case of Garza v. State, under this statute, interference is defined as checking or hampering the action of officers or doing something that hinders, prevents, or tends to prevent the performance of an officer's legal duties. The court also noted that, quote, interference does not require the use of actual direct or threatened force, and that now quoting again, a peace officer may be obstructed, interfered with, or impeded in the lawful performance of his official duties by speech, before ultimately concluding that an individual's verbal refusal to allow an officer to draw his blood in the execution of a search warrant was sufficient to constitute interference. Likewise, in the 2011 case of RECG, the Supreme Court of Wyoming upheld a delinquency adjudication for interference against a juvenile who refused an officer's instruction to exit a vehicle and braced herself against the driver's seat when he tried to remove her. It is important to recognize that in this situation, although the driver may be able to argue that he did not knowingly interfere with the officer's attempts to remove him from the vehicle, as he was physically prevented from unlocking the vehicle door by the officers holding his arms out the window. Courts have found a verbal refusal to comply with a lawful order to be sufficient to prove an interference charge. Therefore, assuming that Officer Stinson was acting with lawful authority when he ordered the driver to exit the vehicle, it is likely that a court would conclude that the driver's refusal to exit the vehicle constituted a violation of the interference statute. As to Officer Stinson's assertion that the driver's age is irrelevant, juveniles can generally be arrested for conduct that violates criminal statutes, and under Wyoming law, they can be tried in traditional courts or in juvenile court. Section 14-6-203 of the Wyoming statutes provides that, quote, the juvenile court has concurrent jurisdiction in all cases in which a minor is alleged to have committed a criminal offense, and, based on various factors, the district or county attorney has the authority to commence such cases in either juvenile or criminal court. Therefore, Officer Stinson is correct in his assertion that the driver could be arrested for obstruction, despite the fact that he is a minor.
Doesn't matter how old you are.
Open the door, man. Seriously, is this worth it?
My mom's on the way.
I don't care. I told you to open the door.
It doesn't matter.
18.
Open the door.
It doesn't matter how old you are. That has nothing to do with this.
Passenger, unlock the door.
There's not one over there.
There we go. Hold on.
When you don't do what you're told, this is what happens. He almost hit somebody in the crosswalk right here at the courthouse. The dude had to stop and like back up for him to go through, and then he wheels in here and I stop him. He doesn't have a license.
Either Officer Stinson claims that the driver almost hit a pedestrian in a crosswalk and that the pedestrian had to stop and back up. However, the dashcam footage appears to show that the pedestrian entered the crosswalk after the driver had passed it, or at the very least at the same time as the driver was passing. While Officer Stinson's dashcam clearly shows that the driver did not almost hit the pedestrian. Section 31-5-602 of the Wyoming statutes provides that, quote, "The driver of a vehicle shall yield the right-of-way by slowing, going down or stopping, if need be, to yield to any pedestrian within or entering a crosswalk." Unfortunately, there is no available case law that analyzes what precisely it means for a pedestrian to be, quote, quote, entering a crosswalk. But it would certainly be within the realm of possibility for a court to conclude that the statute requires drivers to yield to pedestrians who are on the sidewalk and about to enter a crosswalk. And under this interpretation, a court would likely conclude that Officer Stinson had at least reasonable suspicion, if not probable cause, to stop the driver for failing to yield. Additionally, even if a court ultimately concluded that the statute did not require drivers to yield to pedestrians who had not yet stepped off the sidewalk, or if the evidence showed that the pedestrian actually did not begin to enter the crosswalk until after the driver had passed, a court could still find that Officer Stinson had reasonable suspicion to make the stop. In the 2014 case of Hine v. North Carolina, the Supreme Court held that both reasonable mistakes of law and reasonable mistakes of fact can provide sufficient grounds to justify an investigatory traffic stop, because now, quoting, reasonable suspicion arises from the combination of an officer's understanding of the facts and his understanding of the relevant law. The officer may be reasonably mistaken on either ground. Therefore, it is likely that a court would uphold the constitutionality of Officer Stinson's traffic stop if it concluded that Officer Stinson was reasonably mistaken in his observations of the facts of the situation or his understanding of the law, even if the driver was ultimately found not to have failed to yield to pedestrian.
For pulling him over.
Huh?
What was your reasoning for pulling him over?
Failure to yield to a pedestrian.
Who did it? Stinson?
Yes.
Stinson follows this kid all the time.
Okay. That's perception, but that's
Oh, I
what's
know.
going on
I
right
have
now.
witnesses that have been in the car with him, and Stinson followed him for miles down Bighorn Avenue for no reason whatsoever.
Okay. I need you to step back from the car. Don't step forward towards the
Can I
car,
see my
please.
kid?
Not
After the driver was arrested, officers found marijuana and nicotine in the vehicle, and he was charged with interference with a peace officer and possession of a controlled substance. However, the charges were dismissed without prejudice 4 months later for procedural reasons, according to Cody Police Chief Charles Baker. After the Cody Police Department received a formal complaint from a member of the public, Officer Stinson was placed under paid administrative leave, and the department launched an internal investigation into the encounter. Notably, this investigation was completed by Sergeant Justin Weed, who was also involved in the traffic stop. Although the department investigation concluded that Officer Stinson's account of the incident was corroborated by the pedestrian using the crosswalk, the city stated it would also be hiring a third party to review the city's investigation, findings, and department policies. However, as of the date of writing this episode, no further information on this review has been released. It is unclear whether the driver and his family intend to pursue legal action against Officer Stinson or the Cody P. Doverall. Officer Stinson gets an F for maintaining an aggressive and impatient demeanor throughout the encounter, blatantly misrepresenting the nature of the potential traffic violation involved in the stop, and yelling at the minor driver to unlock and open the vehicle door while both of his arms were being held out of the window. Although Officer Stinson may have had a legal reason to conduct a traffic stop, the anger he directed that the driver was completely out of proportion to the severity of a minor traffic violation. While I understand that some of the driver's actions were likely frustrating, Officer Stinson's ill-tempered behavior was entirely unprofessional, particularly given the fact that he was dealing with a minor. Additionally, Officer Stinson repeatedly exaggerated the reasons for the underlying traffic stop to make it seem like the pedestrian was in potential danger. There was somebody in the crosswalk and you almost hit him. He almost hit somebody in the crosswalk right here at the courthouse. The dude had to stop and back up for the car for him to go through, and then he wheels in here and I stop and he doesn't have a license either. In reality, the dashcam footage clearly showed that the driver did not even come close to striking the pedestrian. And, although it may have been reasonable for Officer Stinson to believe that he violated the failure to yield statute, his visual observation should have clearly precluded any interpretation of the situation that involved the driver almost hitting the pedestrian. As for the driver, it would not be appropriate to issue a grade to a minor who has likely never had a negative experience with law enforcement or been educated on how to properly navigate a police encounter. This interaction highlights the importance of educating young adults about their constitutional rights and the role and authority of law enforcement officers. Considering that very few public school curriculums cover anything related to this topic, resources like flexyourrights.org can offer valuable information to individuals who want to learn more about their rights and police interactions. Thank you very much for watching the video. Subscribe our channel for next video.